What is up, everybody? Welcome to Pub Sports Radio. This is the Draftkings picks and prediction show for UFC Mexico. We have Brandon Moreno going against Brandon Royval. And yeah, guys, I'm really looking forward to this card. To me, this has kind of that pay-per-view feel. We have 2 5-round fights, and we just have a card that is stacked from top to bottom. We're kicking it off with Muhammad Ayamov going out there and beating the crap out of Eric Silva. And then we're going to finish it with Brandon Moreno going out there and taking on Brandon Royval. Love this card from a fan perspective, a betting perspective, and also a DraftKings perspective. And we are here to talk that DraftKings. I am here with Weezy and Gordo. Monk is not here. He will not be here, so we'll miss him. But there he is. There's Monk down at the bottom. Shout out to Monk. We'll kick it to you first, Gordo. How are you doing? You looking forward to some UFC Mexico?
I am, man. It does feel like a pay-per-view. It's a pretty fun one, loaded with a lot of these hometown favorites and a lot of these guys that I think bring a very entertaining fight. I think we not only have the notion of elevation, not only do we have that it being abroad, but we have a lot of smaller weight classes, a very good time. And I think it brings for some decent action. And honestly, it's a DraftKings slate that I'm very much looking forward to talking through, and one that I'm excited to hear your takes on. It should be a fun one.
Hey, man, this card's awesome. Uncle Weezy, I know you're looking forward to this card. What is up?
Yeah, I've been looking forward to props opening on some of these fights all week. And guess when they're opening?
Right now.
Right now, while we're doing a live show, we got these props opening. So, yeah, but I like this card quite a bit. I mean, obviously, live crowds, we always get those live crowds, and the UFC tries. The matchmakers decide we're going to try this week. They tried. They gave us 13 really good fights, some really interesting matchups here, stylistic matchups, all action matchups. I'm really looking forward to this card from a DraftKings perspective, from a betting perspective, from a props perspective. Let's talk it through. Let's figure out ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this one.
From every perspective imaginable. I like it. All right, guys, before we get into it, if you guys could please do us a favor, leave a like here on the video, subscribe to Pub Sports Radio. We go live every Wednesday, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Do you want to shout out the chat? What is up? We got Trevor, first one in the building. Claudio Poyas, live dog. Yeah, I think there's a decent amount of live dogs this week. We go Elijah one in the building. What is up? Elijah one. We got Steven in the building as well. Spencer, what is up? If you guys could smash the like button for us. I say we get right into it. And as always, we're going to start with our fight to target. And let's kick it to our Uncle Weezy. Uncle Weezy, which fight are you targeting the heaviest for UFC Mexico?
I mean, there's 3 that I have written down here, so I'll just give you the very first one. It's going to be Loco Torres versus Chris Duncan. This fight is minus 700 to finish inside the distance. You got 2 mid-range guys here priced at 7,900 and 8,300. And there's some pretty appealing fighters in the upper salary classes this week, so we're going to need to find an underdog we like. We're going to need to find maybe 2 underdogs we like and 1 mid-range player. So this is one of the mid-range players that's got a ton of upside, whether it's Duncan or Torres. Somebody's going to win this fight. Somebody's going to get served inside the distance, and somebody's probably going to score 100 points here. So I like this one. 2 violent dudes going at it, and it's going to be a really fun fight.
I like it. I agree. I think somebody is definitely going to win that fight and win it probably dominantly and violently as well. So love that call. For me, I'm going to go with one of the 5-round fights. I like both 5-round fights this week, but I think my favorite to target from a DraftKings perspective here is going to be Yair Rodríguez going against Brian Ortega. It's a fight where, as the week has gone on, I'm like get less and less confident in really both guys. There's question marks with Brian Ortega. He's been out for a very long time. What's he going to look like now at 33 years old? We got Yair Rodríguez, who I think is going to have a significant striking advantage here. It's a striker versus grappler matchup. It all comes down to who's able to get their game plan going. If Yair is able to keep this fight upright, he probably looks like a massive favorite and potentially even knocks out Brian Ortega. I think there's a huge discrepancy on the feet. Brian Ortega is a walking punching bag, and Yair hits and kicks very hard especially. But, if Brian Ortega gets the fight down on the mat, he can submit most guys in the division. So, Brian Ortega, I think, is a very intriguing underdog this week at 7,700, but Yair definitely has a path to score well also. So, yeah, I like this fight a lot. Don't have a strong lean one way or another on who wins the fight, but I'm going to have plenty of it on DraftKings. Gordo, what is your favorite fight to target for this week?
Yeah, I think you guys mentioned some great ones. I want to go towards one that I feel like we've talked about 1,000 times already. Edgar Chairez, Luan Lacerda, or Da Silva, or whatever his name is at this point. It's one that has been booked a few times, one that has been highly anticipated, and you know what, for good reason. It's one that is supposed to end violently inside the distance. It's a guy that every time you see Daniel Da Silva fight, it's one where you expect violence. This fight is now minus 600 inside the distance at flyweight. It's something you don't really see very often, but having 5 fights in the UFC and not winning any of them, really gassing out after that first round allows for a pretty interesting dynamic. I think Da Silva is a guy who is pretty fun, and at cardio parity could win some fights. Like, the guy's decent in that first round because he has the ability to go out there and land spinning kicks and be a pretty athletic striker and grappler. But after that first round, he does fade. After the first 4 minutes, he fades and he can be finished, and it allows for his opponents to go out there and have success. In this fight here, either it's going to be Da Silva very early with a chance to win, or Chairez taking over later. Either way, I do expect this fight to finish. I do expect this fight to score well. I just hope it happens this time.
I hope it happens too. And I hope there's no funny business, no contest this time. And I think we do get a finish, and it should be a fun fight nonetheless. All right, moving on to the fight to fade. I'm going to kick this one off here. The fight that I will be fading this week is going to be Daniel Zellhuber going against Francisco Prado. We got Daniel Zellhuber sitting at 8,900. We got Prado sitting at 7,300. If anything, it's probably a shot on Prado here, but I think this fight does go the distance. Both these guys are extremely tough, extremely durable. We've seen Zellhuber eat some big shots and not even look fazed by it. And then Francisco Prado has an absolute brick for a head. I'm not sure anybody's knocking that guy out either. And I think we got a fight that primarily plays out on the feet. You know, I don't necessarily see Zellhuber going out there and getting takedowns. That's not really his game. If anything, it's probably Prado wrestling, but Zellhuber showed very good takedown defense. So I see this fight kind of, taking place on the feet. Zellhuber trying to stick on the outside, use that long, lengthy striking, and ultimately win a decision at 8,900. I just think there's a lot better options. I think there's guys this week with, elite grappling upside. And I think there's guys this week with elite finish upside. And I don't think Zellhuber has any of those. So I'm going to be fading the Zellhuber and Prado fight. I think it's a fun fight, but not a fight I love from a Draftkings perspective. Gordo, which fight are you fading for UFC Mexico?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to be fading this Dos Santos versus Moreno fight. It's a flyweight, one that is plus 170 to end inside the distance, and it's one that I think that, it's going to be a pretty fun one, but one that I don't think necessarily has the highest DraftKings implications. Dos Santos had that incredible debut last time. He went out there, put in a very close decision, made it to decision and made it a close fight against someone he shouldn't have, and even in a win there would have only scored 70 points. His style doesn't really replicate a high-scoring DraftKings style if he's not getting a finish. Even though he was able to go out there and land a ton of volume, I do think there are better fights on this better fights on the slate to target from that perspective, as well as a guy in Moreno who has been content to go out there and win 88-point decisions or fight close last time. I do think this is a fight that's going to be fought at a decent pace, although one that I do think goes a distance, and with so many violent finishes expected, I don't think that at 9.2K, Dos Santos will be able to compete with the people around him. For that reason, I'll be a bit lower on this one.
And last but not least, Weezy, which fight are you fading this week?
Yeah, for me, it's Puelles versus Ziam. If Puelles wins this fight, I don't really see him getting a ton of takedowns. I don't see him landing a bunch of strikes. I kind of feel like he snatches up a submission at some point, and he may not score a lot of points up until that point. And outside of that, with Ziam here, you need, if you're Ferraz, to kind of keep this fight standing and not grapple at all. You just don't want to be on the ground with Puelles, whether you're on top of him or whether you're underneath him. Claudio is always going to be searching for submissions. He's always going to be leaving you an out, trying to look to get your back or trying to get to your leg. So I kind of feel like Puelles is sub or bust here. And for us, Ziam is scoring about 2.3 DraftKings points per minute on average. He's never finished any of his UFC wins. So he just doesn't, at the salary that you have to pay for Ferraz this week, I don't think you want to pay up for him either. So it feels like outside of a submission win for Puelles, this fight's going to be a safe one to avoid. Oh, Brady.
Yeah.
Brady.
Dang, man. Come on. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. At least Monk's not here to yell at me as well, so it's not as bad. Just don't tell Monk that happened. Anyway, what I was trying to say while muted was I think that was a great transition into the fighter to fade, because I am fading Farzam 8,700. Just zero grappling upside, in my opinion. Obviously, he's not going to go for takedowns here. Like Weezy said, he's going to try to stick on the outside, and he's just so low volume. Like his scoring is just completely terrible. He's landing, I think, maybe 3 significant strikes per minute. He's not shown to be a finisher at this level. If he does get a finisher, maybe if he does get a finish here, it's probably something late. Maybe Claudio Puelles does gas out and get finished late. But even then, it's like, I'm not sure this guy has a ton of upside at all. I think he's a pretty easy fade for me this week at 8,700. There's so many guys and ladies I like that are above and below him as well. I think this mid 8K range is extremely stacked. So I'll save some salary and go elsewhere this week. Gordo, which fighter are you fading this week?
Yeah, it is for Ziam as well. It's hard for me to get different there. All the points you guys mentioned, I think are valid. So for that reason, I'm going to try to find somewhere else. And although I do have some of her, I will be fading partially Jauregui at 9.5K. She is someone who I think is, the biggest favorite of the card for a reason. She is very talented. She has all these skills, but at the end of the day, she's 9.5K in a bout that is expected to go all 15 minutes. And last time that happened, she went out there and only scored 65 points. I get it's a completely different dynamic against someone in Sam Hughes, but this is still a fight that I think she could be completely content to dominate and still score 80, 90 points, which at 9.5K is not going to end up on the optimal lineup. So to me, this is a fighter at 9.5K who I just think they're better fighters around her. And I do think that she wins. I do think that she's a good contrarian play, but at this point in time, I do think they're better options.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. And then Weezy, what do you got for a fade this week?
Well, it wouldn't be a DraftKings show with your Uncle Weezy on it if he wasn't piling on Fares Ziam. And, I do think eventually at some point the finishes will come for Fares. And he's a good counter striker. He's going to show a little bit of power. He's only 27 years old, I think, still. But this guy Puelles is exactly the kind of striker that Ziam can pick apart at range and land big shots on. But until Ziam does start showing finishing ability, he should be considered DraftKings aids. Fares is only scoring 2.33 DraftKings points per minute. That translates only to 65 DraftKings points in a decision win. And since all of his UFC wins come by way of decision, his win condition score is nowhere near where it needs to be to pay off his 8,700 salary.
Man, we're all just piling on. As far as I kind of feel bad now.
I do too, and I probably shouldn't have said he's DraftKings aids, but we have to be honest here on Pub Sports Radio.
Yeah, nothing wrong with being honest. All right, move on now to our favorite dog here. So for me, man, I think there's a lot of live dogs. It's just there's not one I really love. So I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on this. We'll start with you, Gordo. Who is your favorite dog on the card?
I think there's a lot of viable underdogs, but for me, if I had to choose one, let's go with co-main event here, Brian Ortega. And I get it's a very scary notion to go out there and trust somebody who's had to lay off, has not won a fight in forever. But truth be told, is last time the guys fought, he was a favorite and he was expected to go out there and run through Rodríguez on the mat. And although that it may be a far-fetched connotation now, I still think this guy, if he has the right mindset, has the skill set to score very well on DraftKings. We know he may only need one takedown to have success on the mat. His ground game is at another level. And you add in the fact that he is as durable as he is, he could have a very high floor in this matchup as well. So you add in the ability for him to go out there, throw volume, land takedowns, have the ability to be very successful on the mat. His ceiling is very, very high in a 5-rounder here, as well as having a pretty good, durable floor in this matchup. I do think he's one of my favorite underdogs at 7.7K. I do think he has the opportunity to go out there and win this fight like he was originally projected to, as long as his heart's in the right place. So give me Ortega this week.
Yeah, I think that's the guy I'm going to have the most exposure to. I haven't done my lineups yet this week, but I think Ortega's my highest exposed fighter. Another guy I'll give that I think is going to be kind of low owned here. He's a guy that I don't really trust at all, but I don't really trust either of these guys. It's the Hani Barcelos, Cristian Quiñonez matchup. It's a fight that I do think finishes inside the distance. The fight doesn't go minus 200. And I worry about Barcelos here. I worry about, he's getting up there in age. He's a 36-year-old bantamweight, turning 37 in a couple months. This is a guy that I'm starting to now question the durability. I've always kind of questioned the cardio or an elevation here as well. And Cristian Quiñonez, he's a killer be killed fighter. This is a guy that's going to go in there, not a ton of defense, but he hits very, very hard. And we've seen Barcelos hurt before. We've seen him knocked out before as well. So I think Quiñonez is semi-low owned here and has some finish upside against the 36-year-old bantamweight and Hani Barcelos. But yeah, I think Ortega would be mine, Gordo. Weezy, who is your favorite dog this week?
So I'm going to go with Victor Altamirano this week. I think Vic is live to win this fight, and his opponent is really bad defensively. I could see him landing a ton of strikes this week. I could see him getting takedowns and reverses this week and potentially racking up some control time. And since this fight is almost 70% implied to go to decision, I see Vic being a high floor, potentially high upside fighter in front of his home crowd against a very overrated guy in Dos Santos. And both of these guys throw a ton of volume. Both of these guys are really bad on the takedown defense, and both these guys get sweeps. So I could see this, even though it's going to be a fight that goes to decision. I look at potential high volume fights, and this is definitely one of them, where the underdog doesn't really have much of a likelihood of getting finished, and that's what the books are telling us here. So I think there's a good floor on the Altamirano side, and potentially this guy, Dos Santos, could be a little bit overrated, losing to Cop here on short notice, and now. If Altamirano gets this win at 7,000, man, he's going to score probably 80, 90 points, and that could be a really good score.
No, I like that call, especially for cash. I do have him in my cash lamp this week. Like you said, I think he's safe. I think he has upside. Even in a loss, I think he can go out there, go full 15 minutes, put up a lot of volume, get some takedowns. So yeah, I love him in cash this week. All right, now we will move on to our prize picks section. We'll start with Gordo. What are you liking for prize picks this week?
Honestly, it's a board I haven't dove into too much. I do think there's some interesting ones here. And as much as I don't like to do it, I was going to leave it to Weezy to continue to pile on the hate beer here, but let's continue piling on. Faraz EM under 80.5 fantasy. I know we talked about him enough at this point, and I don't really want to throw out there, French guy, yeah, we got to like the French sometimes here too. But man, it would require an early finish or a ton of volume for him to go out there and exceed this, and that's not his style. No grappling equity, not much finish equity. I do not think he goes over 80.5. One of my favorite plays in the slate.
I almost got myself muted again. Yeah, I actually have that one written down, Gordo. I also had Brandon Moreno more than 2.5 takedowns earlier in the week. It's now 3. I still don't mind that, but what I'll give here is going to be Yazmin, Jauregui more than an 87.5 fantasy score. She's a big favorite here. On some books, she is the biggest favorite on the card. I see she's minus 600 now, which it is definitely wild. I know a lot of people are on Sam Hughes this week, but I think it's a pretty bad match for Sam Hughes. I don't see Sam Hughes getting this fight down to the mat. And by the way, on prize picks, if you do stuff takedowns, you do get points for that. So I think she can get some takedown or some points for defending some takedowns. And then on the feet, I just think she has a ton of volume. Sam Hughes, she's very hittable. She's tough, but very hittable. I think Jauregui's going to rack up just a ton of strikes, defend some takedowns. And I think a late finish could be in play here as well for Jauregui. I just think it might be attritional, just, punching the face of Sam Hughes over and over again until the ref's like, no more. Or no moss, I should say. So, yeah, give me Jauregui more than 87.5 fantasy score. It seems low for a fighter that's minus 600. And then Weezy, which prize picks play do you like the most this week?
I'm going with Daniel Zellhuber, more than 11 minutes of fight time. I think both of these guys are really durable. We've never seen Prado finish. Now, he hasn't fought the best level of competition, but this guy went to, Australia on less than 1 week's notice, fought up a weight class against Jamie Malaki, who's a decent finisher in his own right, and he lasted the full 15 minutes. And Zellhuber is a guy that, he tends to not really step on the gas, doesn't he? He is kind of happy staying on the outside, staying behind his jab. And I like that Zellhuber's durable, and I like that Prado's a durable guy. So I kind of feel like this one's going to go over 11 minutes, and that's a pretty safe play this week.
I like it. Yeah, I actually wrote that one down as well. So it looks like I agree with everything said. So that's awesome. Monk, what do you got for prize picks this week?
Delidze.
Monk is on the Delidze side. There he is. Dixon, what is up, Dixon? I see your comment in the comments. We'll get to all the questions at the end, as always. I started, and we will get to those at the end. All right, let's keep moving on.
Can we say one thing first, though, before we go on? Olajuwon here saying lone Canadian getting destroyed right now. Are you calling Fereziam Canadian? Isn't the state of Canadian MMA boring enough right now that we do not need to add Fereziam to this? I don't think we want to claim him here. I don't know, man, but I don't think there is a Canadian on the card.
Yeah, Faraz is definitely not Canadian. I know that for sure. All right, moving on. We got our favorite GPP play here. Let's start with Gordo. What do you like this week for GPP?
All right. Well, last week I picked a Valentine. This week we're picking an enemy, and no Chris Duncan for me. He's the enemy this week. Manuel Torres, 8.3K. He is the GPP play. He is someone I'm looking forward to playing here. You know what? That line is getting blown up. So in theory, we do have some line value here, but at the end of the day, this is a very, very volatile matchup that I do not seeing going past this first round. And if that's the case here, we have two guys with pretty suspect striking defense. They're going to swing and bang. And I do think at this point in time, 8.3K Manuel Torres is a guy who has proven he has that one-shot knockout power, whether it be with his hands, whether it be with his elbows. The guy is pretty electric here. And I think at this point in time here is he's facing a guy in Duncan who has been rocked, who does not have the best striking defense, who I think is a guy who is prone to be caught going forward here. And I do think in front of the Mexican crowd, Manuel Torres has the ability to knock his lights out. I do think he's a ton of power. And I do think that for as long as this fight is in the early goings, Torres can absolutely bonk him here. Now, as the fight goes on, we do have questions. With the grappling, we do have questions as well, but I don't necessarily see that coming too much in a factor. In GPP in the tournament plays, I'm willing to take a stand here and fade the chin of Chris Duncan because we're not friends this week. I don't think we ever have been, really.
No. So looking for that first round upside. Nothing wrong with that. For me, I'm looking for some grappling upside, and what not better than goes to Raul Rosas Jr. at 9,000. Yeah, I mean, if this guy wins this fight, he's going to get a bunch of takedowns. He is averaging 3.5 takedowns per 15 minutes. He's taken on Ricky Turcios, who I've never really been high on, and he has a pretty terrible takedown defense at 45%. We saw Kevin Natividad, of all people, take him down 7 times. Brady Heaston, who I do like, took him down 6 times as well. So Raul Rosas Jr., if he does win this fight, I expect a ton of takedowns, some control time, and a potential finish as well. At 9K, I like that all. So Weezy, what do you like for GPP this week?
GPP, I'm going with Brandon Moreno this week. It's a 5-round fight, and he's got an opponent who has 0 defense anywhere the fight goes, and he's around 70%, actually maybe even closer to 75 right now, implied to win the fight. So he's a very high upside option with a great floor as well, because think about it, Brandon Moreno's never been finished as a professional. So if he wins, you got a chance that he goes the full 25, wins a decision. You also got the chance that he gets a finish win in there against Royval. But even if he doesn't win, probably not getting finished, and you get 25 minutes out of a guy who's scoring about 3 Draftkings points per minute. And then get this, Brandon Royval is allowing 4.57 Draftkings points per minute to his opponent. So he's a guy who has absolutely 0 defense. He's very easy to take down. He's easy to reverse, and he just blocks punches with his face and his body. So Moreno, I don't leave Moreno out of your lineup this week. He's a great cash spot this week. High upside, high floor, perfect matchup too. Gotta love this spot for him.
I don't know if I should pull this comment up. We'll talk about it. It is dangerous. I'll have to look it up, and then I'll maybe talk about it later. But anyway, we'll get to our cash play here. We'll start with you, Gordo. What are you liking for cash?
Yeah, I think cash is a pretty fun concept this week. I think I'm going to go with – I'm torn between a couple fighters here. 2 fighters you guys actually both just talked about. I think between me, it's between Moreno and Rosas Jr. I think they both have different types of floor, but 2 are both very good cash plays. I'm going to stick with Moreno. He's got 5 rounds to work, has been extremely durable, and although Royval brings chaos, I do think Moreno has shown the ability to neutralize it. And with his ability to go out there and fight at the pace he does, have the cardio he does, have the durability, have the takedown upside, I do think he's someone who has a relatively safe floor, and we have yet to see him go below 48 fantasy points here. So at 8.8K, he's a guy who's pretty safe. Add in the fact that I do think he wins this fight at a high clip, and when he does, he's had the opportunity to go out there and score over 100, especially the pace Royval brings. I do think cash-wise, Brandon Moreno is a great play to go this week.
Cat got my tongue, huh? I agree with Dixon here. Royval is the glory hole of DK scoring, and I couldn't have said it any better. For me, it's Moreno as well in cash. 8,800, a guy that is now minus 300, a fight that I do think probably goes 25 minutes, and if it doesn't, and maybe Moreno does get a submission at some point, but I do think it probably does go 25. I love the durability of Brandon Moreno. This guy has 30 fights and has never been finished, and he's just fought killer after killer after killer. Takedown upside here, significant strike upside, control time upside, you name it. And like Dixon said, the glory hole of DK scoring leaves a lot of openings there. So yeah, Moreno as well for me, Gordo. And I was trying to think of another person to throw out, but it's Moreno. Weezy, cash play for this week.
Cash play for this week is going to be one Muhammad Naimov. Safest piece on the board this week by far, in my opinion. I love the finish upside for him here. The win probability approaching 83% on the money line. The well-rounded skill set. Muhammad's got solid conditioning. He's got a lot of power on the feet. He's like a world champion Taekwondo guy. And he's got a really good submission game as well, a good grappling game, and he can wrestle. So I think he gets the finish. I think he scores in the triple digits, and I think he shaves Eric Silva's ass.
Is that a foreshadow of your show tonight or no?
I don't know. I can't comment on that. I mean, we're gonna have the ass shaving of the week tonight, about midnight Central Time. And, it's not official yet. It never is official until like 5 minutes before showtime. I'm running a bunch of numbers. I've got like 50 different people on the horn. There's a lot of research that goes into this pick every week.
And it has to be an ass shaving too, because if it was a chest shaving, Naimov would be the number one guy.
Yeah, I know, right? So that's why the ass shaving is the ass shaving,
100%.
It's unknown, man. It's only you would know who's adequate, right?
Yes, that's
right. That is right.
It's my bit.
It is your bit, and no one can take that away. All right, let's go to our value play. Yeah, it's Muhammad Naimov for me, man. 9,100 on DraftKings, but this guy is on some books the biggest favorite on the card, minus 575, and I can see it getting wider. Like, I don't see anybody on poor Eric Silva this week. Naimov is in every single person's parlays this week. And yeah, like Weezy said, he should go out there and probably finish Eric Silva. Eric Silva's been finished in both of his losses. He's fought atrocious competition. He got finished by TJ Brown. And that's really all you need to see. If you're getting finished by TJ Brown, something's wrong. You're probably not UFC caliber. And Naimov is just a much better fighter. Naimov can potentially get takedowns here, or if he wants to keep it on the feet and knock this guy out, he can as well. So Naimov, 9,100, a ton of upside. He should probably be like 9,600 this week. So 9,100, sign me up. Gordo, who are you liking for some value this week?
Yeah, kind of taking the easy way out just because I want to talk about him as well. Let's go Raoni Barcelos, 8.6K. I think if he able to go out there and utilize his grappling, he could look like some hindsight value. He is one of my favorite GPP pieces on the board, and I do think in a win, he could put up a very good score. Again, it is harder to trust this guy at his age and with his durability, but I do think he is a guy with a much better skill set. I do think that he has the ability to go out there and not only land more volume, but have a clear path to victory with the wrestling and the grappling. And I do think in a win, he could have a first-round submission victory with a takedown, and no one would be surprised considering how good he is on the mat. When he has utilized that wrestling and victory, his last wins, he scored 101, 111, 113, and 110. Those are phenomenal scores when he's going out there and able to get off on his wrestling. However, he does have a tough opponent in front of him, so he could look like hindsight value in a win, a bit of a riskier play, but I do think he gets it done this week and exceeds the style of 8.6K.
Yeah, I mean, if the path's there, if this was a couple of years ago, I'd be all over Barcelos. I think he's so much better than this guy. It's just, can his durability hold up and his cardio? We'll have to see. Weezy, who do you like for some value this week?
It's going to be whoever wins the Torres versus Duncan fight is going to be massive value. And since I'm picking Chris Duncan, I'm taking Chris Duncan as my value pick of the week. I think he's got the necessary durability and wrestling to weather the early storm, avoid the big shots, turn the tide in the second after Torres gets tired. And if he does that, there's grappling upside and finish upside at 7,900. But obviously the likelihood that he gets starched and scores under 10 points in a loss is definitely there. But whoever wins this fight is probably optimal this week.
Yep, I totally agree. And I think Duncan's definitely going to be the lower owned guy. I mean, Torres is almost a minus 200 favorite. Yep. And he's only 8,300. So you're definitely getting the lower owned guy there with Chris Duncan. And yeah, he has grappling upside as long as you can survive that first. All right, we'll move on now to our.
You can't tell me this is not Zhang versus Ribeiro from last week. Like, come on, this is the same thing.
Maybe Weezy can get some payback this week.
Yeah, I think we just know a little bit more about each of them. With Zhang, Ribeiro was like, oh boy, somebody's gonna get killed. It's like a coin flip. Who? At least this one, you kind of know how each guy gets killed.
That's
like with Torres, he just gets dragged out in the second and then he dies because he's only been out of the first round once in his entire career. And if Duncan dies, he probably dies like he would have died in the Campbell fight had he not landed that lucky punch, and like he died in the Vyacheslav fight.
But we got ourselves a mid-range price fight, right? Where neither guy have any striking defense, and the underdog has a theoretical grappling path to victory. Come on.
That's a great point.
Could be.
Anyway, carry on.
It could be. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right. We'll move on to our dart throw here. I'm curious what you guys have for a dart throw this week. We'll stick with you, Weezy. Who are you liking for a dart throw?
Dart throw, I've got Pretty Ricky Turcios as my dart throw this week. Rosas is overrated. There, I said it, okay? He's not a 19-year-old Damian Maia, ladies and gentlemen. Let me be the first to wake you up to that fact. It's not just one takedown and it's over. The second we saw him see any resistance at all, he folded like a lawn chair and lost the last 2 rounds easily to Cristian Rodríguez. He shit the bed there as a minus 300 favorite, and I think there's a good chance he does it again here. Turcios is slippery on the ground. I swear this guy greases himself up with butter before he gets into the cage. He's got dog shit takedown defense, but watch and see how long anybody holds him down after they get him down. He's impossible to hold down. He's never been submitted, has Ricky Turcios. And he's fought a ton of wrestlers and grapplers in his career. And his get-up game, ability to reverse position, scramble, defend submissions, and be a very well-conditioned athlete that gets better as the fight goes on, has held up really fine throughout his entire career. So I think he turns the tide of this fight in the second round, closes strong, and maybe even gets a late finish at altitude if Rosas hasn't cleaned up that conditioning of his. The dart throw this week is Pretty Ricky Turcios, a great karaoke singer, a beautiful head of hair, great on the mic, and he is as slippery as the greased up deaf guy in Family Guy.
What? Yeah, you're right. He is. I was actually looking at that Turcios round 3 prop. It's plus 2,200. I think that could be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I think it's interesting as well. I mean, it's going to be a really fun fight because this is a good step up for Raul. Raul's only 19 years old. I mean, like, he's got a long way to go. He's going to improve. The striking is going to get better. The conditioning is going to get better. He's going to train more and more with really good athletes. And the submission game is already there. But, he's beaten Jay Perrin and Terrence Mitchell. So we got to... and he got reversed like 4 times by Mando Gutierrez on Dana White's Contender Series. Let's just, let's tread lightly.
I don't know, Weezy. Sounds like you liked him a lot when he was 17, and now he's 19, and he's not specialty anymore.
Wow.
Yikes, dude. Yikes.
Dude, oh I gotta do a couple things here. First, I gotta shout out to Lubecha. Free Lubecha. No Monk got stuck behind a train. He was not able to make it. And second, I have to call out my guy, Sean V. Sean V, you call me out every single week. Whenever I get one thing wrong, you always comment to let me hear it. Well, it's time I flip the table around. It's time I let you hear it a little bit. So I'm gonna share this, and I hope it works. If not, I'm still calling you out here. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, let's see if I can play it, and hopefully you guys can hear it. There we go. Right. Time to call out Sean V. Sean doesn't like my take. Sean says Fluffy won't even get Roman down. Sean, if you think that, you're on crack, dude. I mean, Fluffy can attempt like 20 take. I think he's getting at least 1 takedown. Sean, if Fluffy doesn't get 1 takedown here, what should I do? I'll give you $50. How about that? If Fluffy gets 0 takedowns, I will send you $50, Sean V. Because come on, this guy averages more takedowns than Marab. Almost 7 He's not taking down Roman. I get Roman has great takedown defense, but against.
Tell him.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I kept going, but basically, what do you mean Fluffy's not taking down Roman Kopylov? Like that? Are you on crack? Are you on crack, Sean V? Oh my gosh. So anyway, Sean calls me out week after week. It's all in good fun. It's time that I call him out this time. So shout out to Sean V. I don't know, man. Where were we? Oh,
Yeah,
dart throw. I think dart throw, and I think it's Gordo. Gordo, you're up.
It is, and I was gonna go Ricky Turcios because you know what, he's a slimy guy. I know Weezy mentioned a lot of good points. Let's go dart throw this week. Not gonna make Weezy my friend anymore, but Eric Silva dart throw this week. Like, come on, guys. Like, I know, but we live in a world where last week Valentine Woodburn was on the optimal lineup. All right, what is going on? We don't know anymore at this point in time, right? We had Zhang Mingyang and Valentine Woodburn on the lineup, right? Doesn't matter. Point being is Eric Silva is not that good, but what he is pretty explosive early on. And I think his path to victory is roaded in an early finish. It's going to come whether by positional ground and pound. It's going to come by an opportunistic submission. The guy is pretty good offensively, just lacks a lot of these he looks pretty good offensively against regional scene guys, but he does leave a lot of these defensive openings. I do think his path to victory is roaded in early success, and that's why it requires a little bit of a dart throw, although, like I said, and not the safest play in the world by any means.
Yeah, his path to victory is probably like a first round guillotine. If he does win, he's going to be like 2% owned. So I'm surprised nobody said this guy. I mean, this guy is the ultimate dart throw. He's Daniel Lacerda da Silva. Has about 2 minutes of gas, but he's really good for those first 2 minutes. He's extremely dangerous. And if he wins, it is a first round finish. He will be on the optimal lineup. I don't like him to win this week, especially at high elevation, but if he does win, he is going to put up well over 100 points. So he's a dart throw. And yeah. All right.
And by the way, Brady, public service announcement for this week. The Edgar Cairez money line is now at minus 445. Please, for the love of Jah, don't lay minus 445 on Edgar Cairez. Don't do it. That is your public service announcement. I will send the orderlies for you if you're parlaying this dude up at minus 445. Come on. Wow. What happened there?
I mean, if people liked Da Silva at plus 230, they're going to love him at plus 345. I'll tell you that. He's a very popular bet this week. Nothing's wrong with passing is what I like to say. Nothing's wrong with passing. Don't bet on Cairez at minus 445, but at the same time, I will never bet on Da Silva to win a fight ever. Big fan, but I'll never bet him to win a fight. All right, so we got the pretty much everything out of the way. What we're going to do now is, if you guys have any comments in the question, okay, I can't even freaking talk. Any questions in the comments, type them in, and we'll get to them. I saw a good amount, as always, the majority coming from Dixon Cider, which is fine. So last week's results, we had in fourth place, myself, I had Rinya Nakamura, 90.69, Merab Dvalishvili, 111, Marcos Rogeri de Lima, 110, Volkanovski 18, Ribeiro 5, and Andrew Lee 30.26, scoring 366.82. Third place, Weezy, Anthony Hernandez 106, Danny Barlow 93, Merab Dvalishvili 111, Volkanovski 18, Ribeiro 5, and Dern 40. Weezy scored 376.03. Second place is Monk, Hernandez 106, Barlow 93, Dvalishvili 111, Amanda Lemos 74, Volkanovski 18, and then Costa 26, scoring 432.09. And then in first place, Gordo, Anthony Hernandez 106, Merab Dvalishvili 111, De Lima 110, Zhang Mingyang 106, Alexander Volkanovski 18, and Josh Quinlan 15. Gordo scored 469.68. Congrats, Gordo. You're first place.
I love Zhang Mingyang, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Hey, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. All right, let's go to our total. We're five cards in. It feels like we're like a lot more than that. But 5 cards in. We got Monk in fourth. He has 1,791 DraftKings points. Weezy's in third. He has 1,860 DraftKings points. And Gordo's in second. He has 2,038 DraftKings points. And then first, myself, 2,116 DraftKings points. I was kind of pulling away, but Gordo was able to get it right back with the first place there. All right, so we'll do our lineups for this week, and Monk will be sending it in the chat, so we'll get that. But Weezy, do you have your lineup ready to go for this week?
Yeah, we're going up top with Muhammad Naimov. Then it's going to be Brandon Moreno, Hani Barcelos, Yair Rodríguez at 8,400. We're going Chris the Problem Duncan at 7,900, and our punt is Victor Altamirano at 7,000.
All right, we have 3 the same. Gordo says that as well. Okay, Gordo, what do you got for this week?
We better not have the same lineup. I'm going to get angry. You know, I got a hammer behind me. You might want to be careful. 9.3K, I'm taking Edgar Chairez up top, Brandon Moreno, Raoni Barcelos, Manuel Torres, Brian Ortega, and Victor Altorino.
And we have 3 the same as well. Yeah, I'm going Altamirano as well, Brandon Moreno as well, Manuel Torres, Raul Rosas Jr., Naimov. Did I say Naimov yet?
Nope.
Naimov and then Jesus Aguilar. All right, so we got the lineups out of the way, and then let's do our quick picks first, and then we'll get to some questions. All right, Weezy, what are your quick picks for this week?
So they're not actually ready on my page yet here, but let me just kind of scroll through them. I'm going with Muhammad Naimov, second round knockout. I'm going with Felipe Dos Santos by decision. I'm going with Ronaldo Lazy Boy Rodríguez by decision. Fares Ziam by decision. Edgar Chairez, second round knockout, I think. Mateus Mendoza by decision. Hani Barcelos by second round submission. Chris Duncan, second round knockout. Yazmin Jauregui, decision. Pretty Ricky Turcios by decision. Daniel Zellhuber by decision. Yair Rodríguez by third round knockout. And Brandon Moreno by decision.
All right, Gordo, what do you got for some quick picks?
Let's go the reverse order to mix things up here. Let's go Brandon Moreno by decision, Yair Rodríguez, round 4 KO, Daniel Zellhuber, decision. I'm close to picking Turcios, but I will still go with Raul versus Jr., round 1 sub, Yazmin Jauregui, decision, Manuel Torres, round 1 KO, Raoni Barcelos, round 1 sub, Mateus Mendoza, decision, Edgar Chairez, round 2 KO. I'm actually predicting the unthinkable here. Fares Ziam, round 3 KO. I know.
Yeah.
But we'll get there.
Luis
Rodríguez, round 3 KO as well. Felipe Dos Santos, decision, and Muhammad Naimov, KO 2.
All right. I'm going Brandon Moreno, decision, Yair Rodríguez, KO 3, Zellhuber, decision, Raul Rosas Jr., submission, round 1, rear naked choke, Yazmin Jauregui, KO 2, Manuel Torres, KO 1, Cristian Quiñonez, KO 1, Jesus Aguilar, submission, round 3, guillotine, Edgar Chairez, submission, round 2, guillotine, Claudio Poyas, submission, round 2, toe hold, Luis Rodríguez, submission, round 3, guillotine, and then Dos Santos, decision, and Naimov, KO 2. All right, guys, let's get to some questions here. Let's see. Here we go. All right, first question. Is it just me, or does this week feel an awful lot like Dolidze Imavov? I feel like the same folks that were betting Roman are all over Ortega here because of the same reasons aside from the rematch. I mean, I wasn't getting those vibes. Anybody getting those vibes? Dolidze Imavov vibes here?
Not in particular.
I kind of felt like Dolidze being the finish only prop was something that I bet, and I kind of feel like that's something that people like with Ortega here, where they're like, okay, you know, he's very durable, and if he just finds one little, you know, submission attempt in a scramble in a when somebody's trying to get back up to their feet, the fight could end. And I feel like people thought that was Dolidze's best win condition as well.
You guys think Yair wins? I am picking him to win. I have no confidence in that fight. I'm actually staying away from it. I don't know. It was kind of weird. Like when these guys were supposed to fight, or when these guys did fight a year or two ago, Brian Ortega was, I think, like minus 170, minus 180. And now all of a sudden he's a decent sized dog. I don't know. It kind of freaks me out. I'm staying away. Gordo, are you taking Yair?
You know what? I am somebody who did bet Ortega last time, and you'd think I'd go back to the well and grab him as underdog. But you know what? Considering we have all these questions about his mentality at this point in time and how he's been so inactive, I'm going to stay away from it as well. I think it's a great DraftKings target because either it's going to be Rodríguez landing a ton of volume or Ortega having that potential submission upset at any time. But I am picking Rodríguez to win, although I do think it's a true coin flip.
Yep. So fights likeliest to have a point deduction, aka yam bag. Shout out to Lou Betcha. Weezy, what is your point deduction / yam bag of the week?
I could see Altamirano versus Dos Santos because it's high likelihood to go the full 15. Rodríguez versus Bondar because Bondar is just a mess. I think those are two good spots. Any notorious cheaters on this card?
One of them.
Yair Rodríguez? A lot of
No, you're
pokes?
ass shaving.
Oh, Naimov. Yeah, dude, he cheated a lot. But
Like
that was
4
against a
times.
good fighter. He's fighting a complete bum this time, Gordo. So he's not going to even have to cheat. You know, I mean, he's just better than this dude.
It's fair.
These Tajikistani guys, I just want to say this. They get points taken all the time. Gafarov, the dude Aliev bit his opponent in his UFC debut. You got Naimov out there cheating like it's his job. You know, the Tajikistan motto is if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
That is true. That is true. Gordo, do you have a yam bag for this week?
I was going to say Naimov, but that was a pretty good point to say there. You know, if Silva doesn't survive, you can't get him a point deducted, but Naimov's a guy who's just going to stay with me notoriously for how many times he cheated against Wood.
That was bad. I usually like to attack like the most hilarious fight on the card for my yam bag. There's not really many hilarious fights on the card, but a fight that I feel like could play out pretty hilariously could be that Zion Poyas fight. Could see some fence grabs. Could see some shenanigans going on, but yeah, nothing really jumping off the page for a yam bag. Weezy, no Eric Silva masterclass. 36-year-old Eric Silva. You don't think he can get it done?
Yeah, 36-year-old Eric Silva that trained with his dad his whole life, and between Venezuela and between the MMA hotbeds of Venezuela and Costa Rica. Yeah, it was just something. I mean, when I bet on TJ Brown to beat him the last time out, my die was already cast in terms of what I thought of a 36-year-old debutante, you know, at this level. So, yeah, I mean, I don't see it coming. But, you know, when you watch the tape on Silva fighting in Mexico, he looked good against that level of competition. But this guy, Naimov, is coming off of 2 straight wins over Malaki, up a weight class on short notice in Australia. And then he goes out and he beats Nathaniel Wood. I mean, this is a pretty impressive young fighter here in Naimov.
Yep, Silva definitely fooled me. I thought he could have been maybe decent in the UFC, but yeah, you call it Weezy. You call these phonies, and you have like 100% hit rate on the phonies, and there's 3 of them on this card you called as well. So whenever Weezy says somebody's a phony, I certainly listen. Let's see here. We already answered no Monk, and no Monk, unfortunately. He'll be back next week. Let's see here. Minus 445 in this economy. Yeah, it's pretty hilarious. Edgar Char is a minus 445 favorite. Did you miss the prize picks? No, we talked about prize picks already. Weezy gave the more on the fight time for Zellhuber. I gave the more on the fantasy score for Jauregui. And then Gordo gave the less on the Zion fantasy score as well. He had $15 to bet on a draw. Which one are you picking? A draw? I don't know, man. Any draw things sticking out for you guys?
I mean,
maybe Turcios Rosas.
Oh,
I could see a 10-8 there, and Turcios coming back, or I could see Rosas getting takedowns in the first 2 rounds and then getting 7 shades of shit beaten out of him in the third. And also I could see Altamirano Dos Santos being a because it's just going to be a wild fight, and I think it goes to decision. So the first thing you need to look for whenever you're betting a draw is, well, let's hope this fight doesn't finish inside the distance, because then your draw dead is definitely dead.
Yeah, I think I'd probably go Rosas as well if I had to pick one. Yeah. Let's see here. Did y'all hear Ortega say that he just arrived in Mexico like 2 days ago and he only started training at Elevation yesterday? That's only 4 to 5 days before the fight. Does that concern you at all? I did not hear that. I did not watch the interviews yet, but yeah, that's dumb that he's just arrived in Mexico. So weird. Any thoughts on that, guys?
That's bad news at Mexico City, man.
It is bad news. I would be more concerned if he had true cardio issues before, but he has seemed to have a decent base for it. Still, it's not something you want to hear.
Aguilar or Poyas as a parlay dog. Man, you don't parlay any of those guys. I don't parlay dogs personally. Would any of you guys parlay Aguilar or Poyas?
No. And if I was going to play Aguilar, if I was going to play Puelles, I'd probably just play the submission prop because he's not the best wrestler. And for Aguilar, I could see him maybe winning a decision. I could also see him snatching up a guillotine. He's got a really good guillotine.
Yeah, nasty guillotine. All right, so I think we covered everything. All right, so yeah, I guess we're going to end the show a little bit earlier, which is expected. Monk is not here, but Weezy, any final thoughts on the card and then also your plans for tonight? You're going live for just a tip. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to do it last night when I normally do. I was out of town this weekend, got a little bit behind on my research. And this is episode number 100. That's going to happen 1 hour from now of Just the Tip with me, your host, Uncle Weezy, on Uncle Weezy's YouTube channel. So I'm fired up for that. Ready to break down all 13 of these fights. I think it's a great card. Great live crowd. Mexican fighter in every single fight here except for Silva versus Naimov. So I think it's going to be a really fun card. The crowd is going to be going, Puelles Ziam, he's Peruvian. But a lot of these guys do train in Mexico. So great card, live crowd, altitude, some really interesting all-action fights. It's going to be a great card. I'm looking forward to stacking cash tickets like flapjacks and bathing in the blood of my vanquished Draftkings enemies, including Hughes too, and Monk, who didn't even have the guts to show up this week.
Whoa.
So let's get it this week because I'm taking care of business. I'm ready to go.
Let's go. I'm ready to go as well. Are you doing any PFL Bellator on your channels? I am not. Weezy, I'm sure you're not. Gordo, are you doing any PFL Bellator?
I honestly have done a little bit of tape on it. Truth be told, depends on my microbiology exam on Friday. You know, if I do poorly, maybe I won't have the sobriety to do a video. But, you know, if I do well, we'll come on, we'll celebrate, we'll do a video. So keep an eye on that on the Plays and Fades YouTube channel.
All right. And also, Gordo, so you plug the Plays and Fades. Anything else going on this week?
No, my video is already live. It's posted there. Full card breakdown, DraftKings, and betting all in one. Timestamp for your viewing pleasure. I will also have a best bets video out, sponsored by CoolBet, out tomorrow. Hopefully, again, microbiology. Woohoo! Seeing how that goes. So I appreciate all you guys. Wish you guys all the best of luck. Hopefully, I don't get gassed out watching these high elevation fights, but I hope everyone's able to go out there and make some money, guys. So good luck.
Penn State does not suck. Come on, Penn State does not suck. Let's cut that out right now. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you could leave a like on your way out, subscribe here to Buzz Sports Radio. I did post a full card breakdown. I'm going to be posting some betting content, some DraftKings content, and then going live Friday and Saturday. Best of luck, everybody, for UFC Mexico. Should be a fun card, and we'll talk to you guys soon. See you later.